Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, if there is one thing we have learned very quickly about Chad Bowden at USC is that he's always got an ace up his sleeve. And it sounds like as we approach signing day, we weren't sure what that ace was going to look like, but we thought there was going to be an ace. Dill, four-star wide receiver Kaden Dixon-Wyatt, modern day, that might be the ace. Now, monster shout out to those over there on 3 and Rivals. If you are a USC fan that's checking out this episode, you enjoy talking this kind of stuff, they do a absolutely great job. It sounds like USC is going to make a late run at Kaden Dixon-Wyatt. Why does this make sense? I think it makes sense because I look at Kaden Dixon-Wyatt, and we said this about this kid back in the summer when he committed to Ohio State. One of the more day one ready wide receivers that you see in the 2026 cycle. Well, you look at an early look about what USC needs to do in this offseason, and it probably starts with replacing Mekhi Lemon and replacing Jacoby Lane. Now, you can go to the portal and grab some wide receivers, but we know Chad Bowden prefers to go grab young talent at the high school ranks. I look at Kaden Dixon-Wyatt and say, not only a really good football player, 24/7 Sports has him as a top 50 national prospect for a reason, but he also goes a long way in maybe easing some of those concerns at wide receiver going into 2026. I want to start with Kaden Dixon-Wyatt. I want to turn our attention to what USC might be doing in the transfer portal because, Dale, you know me more than anybody. Ain't nothing more I like doing than having a little roster building conversation. We got a lot to talk about before we do. And as always, the USC fans, just a freaking monster shout out. Whether we're talking this team on the football field, on the recruiting trail, in the transfer portal, it's so fun to talk this program. The amount of support this fan base has shown the boys has been amazing. I'll tell you this, it ain't slowing down. Like as we get into the transfer portal window, Chad Bowden going to be making money moves. We have a lot to talk about. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dill, I'll ask you this. How confident are you that Kaden Dixon-Wyatt, if he ends up coming to USC, how confident are you that he could be a day one impact for USC in 2026?
And it's probably not just about Kaden Dixon-Wyatt. Like, I know he's a good player. We all know that. The recruiting services kind of tell us that. A, he's physically kind of got the body type that you're looking for to play early. But B, also, wide receiver's been a position where freshmen typically do have a better chance than, you can have really good offensive tackles. Like, Kenny Pepe is a really exciting prospect. I have very little faith that he's going to be a day one kind of guy, just like I have very little faith that almost any offensive tackle is going to be a day one guy at these big power programs. Wide receiver is kind of the opposite, and that's why I think USC is going to be in that position. Like, you're replacing the two guys in this offense. Nobody's really quite emerged as like that third option. And Tanook Hines, I think you're excited about what he can be. But aside from him, you really don't have any sense of who's going to be the guy. I do think, you go hit on some big-time wideouts. That, to me, is as impactful, arguably, as a portal guy.
Because Dill, it's the two birds, one stone idea here. I think USC is going to have to use the portal to bring in a wide receiver or two. You get a guy like Kaden Dixon-Wyatt, not only do you get a guy for the next 3 to 4 years, when in the transfer portal you might get a guy for 1 year, you also get a guy that really could satisfy and fill a hole that you immediately have in 2026. I think that's why Kaden Dixon-Wyatt's probably the wide receiver that USC has chose to really turn it up on, is because he's a guy that has started multiple years at Mater Dei. And he's a guy that is polished and ready to contribute immediately in 2026.
And I think that's a big thing, like playing in that offense that they have there and with those other really talented players. Like, he's already kind of in a college-like setting at this point for Mater Dei. I do think that probably eases the transition a little bit, along with the fact, again, he certainly has the prerequisite, measurables that you're looking for right now. And you can't say that about every wideout. Like, some come in, they can really burn it, but they might be really, really thin or really
hands up. Like, Tanook Hines, I thought, was one of those guys. Like, I did not think he was going to be a contributor immediately for USC back when he committed and he got on campus. Sometimes wrong, but I look at Kaden Dixon-Wyatt and say he's a guy you feel like can help you in 2026, and that might be the biggest need for USC to address going into 2026. Can I give a little bit more about the player before we move on? One thing I'll say right off the bat, filling up on the modern day kids, Tom and Mark Bowman and Sean Scott, that this matters, because if USC wants to get back to where they belong, that needs to be a pipeline. It needs to be a USC pipeline, and you can tell Chad Bowden knows that. As a wide receiver, he does not have the super crazy track and field and testing metrics. The film and production is what you lean into with this kid. I think he can win at all three levels. But the thing I appreciate the most about him is that he can beat you in so many different ways. He can beat you at the catch point. I mean, the ball skills and body control on this kid, it's there. I mean, he can separate. He's a smooth mover for 6'2", a $180 plus. And he's also kind of a hard guy to tackle. When you look at Makai Lemon, I'm not comparing Kaden Dixon-Wyatt to Makai Lemon, but what makes Makai Lemon one of the best wide receivers in the country, if not the best? His ability to beat you in so many different ways. I mean, he is the best route runner in the country. He's elite after the catch, sneaky elite at in the contested catch department for only being a 5'11", 6-foot guy. Kaden Dixon-Wyatt is very similar. I can challenge you and beat you in a lot of different ways. That's what I like to see in my wide receivers coming out of high school.
Well, especially if you're going to get early impact. Like, to me, again, the guys who have like maybe a really freaky athletic trait, those are the ones you kind of feel like need a little bit more time to develop and marinate a little bit. Like Kaden Dixon-Wyatt, like he isn't winning physically necessarily. And again, he's physically where he needs to be a D1 player. I don't like make that implication. But he's also like the skill to make.
He's a good football player. He's not just a track and field athlete that put on a football helmet. I mean, you remember how he talks about Brandon Arrington back in the summer? And look, I think Brandon Arrington, I'm sure many USC fans are familiar with him. I think Brandon Arrington has a chance to be a good football player. But like right now, Brandon Arrington was just a track and field star that put on a football helmet. Like there's a lot of development. I don't think he's going to see the field much at Texas A&M year one. He has that elite trait that you want to bet on, but he's not necessarily day one ready guy. Kaden Dixon-Wyatt, kind of the other side of the spectrum. He's physically gifted. Like, don't get me wrong, but he's a really good football player that has the production at the highest level of high school football to back it up. All right, the more interesting conversation went a little longer on Kaden Dixon-Wyatt than I thought the boys were gonna. Looking at the offense still, biggest position group, and this is a little bit of, look, we have important football to be played, most notably Saturday afternoon in Eugene, Oregon, but I promise you Chad Bowden's having these conversations, and it's an opportunity for all of us to put on our general manager hat real quick, because, hey, we want to go make the playoffs this year. We want to be national championship competitive next year and in 2027. Well, that means preparing for the future a little bit. On the offensive side of football, I'm going to ask you right away, what do you think USC does at quarterback in 2026? The floor is yours here.
Well, I would be really surprised if they're in the market for a starting portal quarterback.
Oh, they're not going to be in the market. What I'm asking you is, who do you think is starting for USC in 2026?
No, if Jaden's coming back, Jaden's going to be the starter. 100%.
So
Jaden Maya's played really well, and I know you can be excited about Hassan. If Jaden Mayaba wants to come back, and I don't know that that's a foregone conclusion because I feel like he's playing NFL kind of level quarterback, and I very well think he could go to the draft. He's the starter, 100%, right?
I think so too. That's going to be an interesting conversation. And USC is in a very advantageous spot where, Hassan Longstreet no doubt wants a chance to play next year. But having Lincoln Riley kind of whispering in your, hey, get one more year under me, and year 3, it's like you sell him on what Dante Moore did. Like, Dante Moore kind of got thrusted onto the football field early at UCLA. Said, hey, come to Oregon, sit behind Dylan Gabriel for year 2, and go ball out year 3. That's what you're selling on Hassan. And you're seeing a lot of young quarterbacks getting thrown into duty maybe a little earlier than they should. I think you can keep Hassan on your roster in 2020. You might have to fight to, but having Lincoln Riley as the head coach, that's going to help. Now, running back position, I think you're feeling great, right? You got 2 really good running backs. I love the running backs that are coming in the 2026 class, and Sean Austin and Deshaun Rideau. King Miller's only a redshirt freshman. Wayman Jordan's got another year of eligibility. Brian Jackson, I think you might lose one because you're that deep in the running back room. You're going to be just fine at running back. Wide receiver. Here's the question I want to ask you. How many wide receivers currently on USC's roster Absent Jacoby Landon, Mekhi Lemon, who we expect to go to the NFL draft, how many do you trust to be ball players for you in 2026?
Probably Chinook and I don't know who else, honestly.
Yeah,
Like right
I
now,
think
like,
that's the
it's
right
hard to,
answer.
and even with Chinook, it's like you wonder, can he step in and be a number one? Does he have that in him? Because right now,
Yeah.
again, like he's not getting the ball a ton,
Yep.
and he is playing with two of the best in the game. So to me, Chinook is even not a surefire thing in
I
terms of
trust
what
Chinook
impact
Hens
he's
to be a starting caliber wide receiver for USC. I'm with you. I don't even know if I'm ready to say he's going to be the wide receiver one, which leads us to the second question. You look at USC's wide receiver class, the freshmen coming in, potentially Kaden Dixon-Wyatt, but guys like Booby Feaster. You're obviously going to have Mark Bowman at tight end. I love Booby Feaster, but we have to remind ourselves that he's a reclass kid. Like he should be a junior in high school right now. Do we want to bet on Feaster being the guy to be that wide receiver one as a reclassified freshman? That's rare. You saw it from Ryan Williams at Alabama last year. You don't see it very often. This is a position to me where you might need to add one, two, maybe even three, but I think you got to get one bona fide wide receiver one.
Do you feel like this is like maybe where you get more aggressive than any position on the field? Because I do
Yeah,
wonder,
on
like, are
offense
you going
at
to
least.
have a number one? If you don't
Yeah,
go out and go really heavy, I don't know that you even need to have a ton of bodies necessarily. But I do think, like, if there's a number one who opens up and like
yeah,
a Casey Concepcion or a Mario Craver type guy,
yeah.
I do think that's got to be like priority one, frankly, for this USC team. I don't know that you need to have a huge wide receiver class because I do like some of the guys coming up through this program and even some of the young freshmen I think can be early contributors. But I do think you want to go get number one, especially if Jaden Mava's coming back because you
Well,
want.
and that's the benefit, and we say this a lot. Like wide receivers, one of the positions that's pretty damn easy to address in the port. They're going to be a lot of wide receiver ones that are available come December and January. Well, now you have really good quarterback play, Lincoln Riley offense with the opportunity to come into this offense that is currently one of the best offenses in the country and be the wide receiver one. USC shouldn't have any problem recruiting a wide receiver one to this program. Like we're Michigan fans. We might have that problem a little bit. USC ain't going to have that problem. Offensive line here, sneaky, man.
Yeah, what I don't. How much do you need to? I don't know that you need to add much at all. Like maybe some depth pieces. Like aside from that, I
Well,
love.
I don't even know if you need to add depth because there are guys that are coming in as freshmen that, I mean, you mentioned Kenny Pepe. You might not have a ton of confidence that he can be a year one starter. I'd probably be comfortable with him being a rotational guy, potentially backup. Brett Coolidge, I think, is going to have an opportunity to start. That is about as day one ready of an offensive line as you'll see on the inside. Elijah Page is really the only, and John Ray Reed, who's a backup center. Like Killian O'Connor's got another year. Elijah Page, I mean, he's got 2 years of eligibility left, but he might go to the NFL draft. But with the injuries he's dealing
No,
with,
I was gonna say with it, he hasn't put together a first round year probably with the injuries.
but he
To
can.
me, he's a guy who, if I'm Elijah Page, I'm thinking I should be like a top 15 pick. Like he's
Yeah.
got that sort of talent. Again, he's got to play a healthy year and put it together. I think he'd do wonders
Yeah.
for his draft stock to go another year in
And
college.
that's the beauty of NIL is you're not forcing these kids to leave early. I mean, there are so many different examples that you can point to and guys that would have been, Elijah Page. Look, I'm no NFL draft scout, but I'd probably slap a late day 2, early day 3 grade on Elijah Page, right? He's a guy that you said it best, can go in the top 32 if he puts together 12 plus healthy games in a season. So if you get Elijah Page back, this offensive line should be ass kickers next year. Like should be a really good unit and a little bit deeper than they are this year. Defensive side of the football, this is where I think there's some wood that needs to be chopped. Now you have a defensive line class that I think is legit. I think Luke Waffle's got an opportunity to come and not just rotate. I think he could start. Tom's a guy. Y'all know how I feel about Tom at Modern Day too. But I do feel like you need some bodies. Now, here's where I'm cautiously optimistic about where USC sits is that, okay, you're going to lose Keyshawn Silver. Like Josh Jarrett might just hit the portal because I don't think Josh Jarrett's going to play much for USC going forward. G-Day, I can't wait to see what he's going to be year 3. Jakeem Stewart in year 2. Floyd Bucard in year 2. Carlin Jones is the guy that Lincoln Riley even shouted out as coming on a little bit. Cam Crawford's going to be in year 3. Braylon Shelby will be back.
Honestly, as much as like the defensive line probably isn't quite ready this year, I almost feel like next year does prime itself a little bit better because you
Yeah.
do finally like at least where the pipeline is, and you haven't really said that about Lincoln Riley's teams at USC.
No.
It's always been like, oh, what are we gonna do? Because like there's not enough coming up through the
And
system. These young guys are better than like Keyshawn Silver. That's at the end of the day. That's just a fact.
oh yeah. Like Floyd Boucard, Jakeem Stewart, G-Day, all three of them, I feel comfortable saying they will give you more than what Keyshawn Silver is giving you this year. Next year, all three of them will be better, in my opinion. It's a good spot to. This is this kind of sums up how I feel about USC. Is look, I don't know if USC is going to go on the road and beat Oregon, right? I don't know if they're there along the defensive line this year to deal with that Oregon offensive line. Regardless of that result, and again, you're going to have a chance because you could score. Regardless of that result, you see the foundation being built the right way, and we've never said that about Lincoln Riley and USC. Move back to the backers, Jaden Walker.
I don't even see you take guys at this point. Like I think you really like where you're at. Like maybe a backup or something, but I don't really see a room for much in the portal at the linebacker spot. I love the young kids there.
Yeah,
Jaden
yeah.
Walker's played really well. I like
Yep.
it.
And like Desmond Stevens, it's just if he can put it all together. You see the glimpses of it. It still hasn't been as consistent as you want, but year 3 Desmond Stevens could be nice. And you have Tamir Robinson, but Ty Togia, I think, is going to be able to play for them. And you have a guy in Talanoa Illy, I think will be able to contribute immediately as a backer. Secondary, probably where you might want to do some work, right?
I was gonna say on defense, this is probably the position that I'd
Yep.
imagine we'll see a fair amount of activity.
And
Depending on
it,
what they think they can get from these young kids coming up.
yep.
There's needs a lot of work, I'd say, in this
So
secondary.
the conversation would be, look, DeCarlos is going to move on, and I think DeCarlos has been your best cornerback. Bishop Fitzgerald to move on. He's been your best and most consistent safety with the injuries that Kamari Ramsey has dealt with. Kamari Ramsey could be back, which would be big. Get him back as safety ideally next year. Like, how much confidence do you have that Marcellus Williams or Braylon Connolly will be like playoff or national championship caliber cornerback? Like the
No.
answer's right. Like hey,
Not
they're
enough
year
when you're
one.
gonna have a good team, I feel like next year.
They're year 2 kids right now, so they very well could take a step going into year 3. But that is a position that I think you look to upgrade, right? And again, there's some talented cornerbacks coming in. You have a guy like RJ Sermons, who's I could be very good next year. Chasen Johnson back from injury, like very well could be a solid football player. That's the position on defense. It's funny how you do this where it feels like USC has a lot of flaws, and they do have a lot of flaws on this year's team, specifically on defense. They're not good enough on the defensive line. They're inconsistent at backer, and they're probably not good enough in the secondary. But then you start projecting it to 2026 and say, well, I very well could see them being quite good on the defensive line next year. And I think they could be a little bit more consistent in the backer room because they're going to be older. The secondary is the only thing where it's like, I think you
That's
just need
probably
more
like
time.
similar, like I'd say probably wide a number one wideout is maybe priority one. I think I'd be
Yeah.
really aggressive for like those top corners.
Yeah.
Like that's not a position I'm necessarily spraying. I'm trying to find like a difference maker because I think right
Sure.
now you have too many guys who are like I'm like fine with, but like you
Yeah,
just don't
that
have
was
real
the thing
star.
with DJ Harvey. You bring in DJ Harvey from San Jose State, and he's solid. Like that's kind of what we said about him. Well, in 2026, you want more than solid, right?
You want big time. I think you need big time at that spot.
And
You need to
especially in this era, man, in this conference where it's like, all right, who are the teams you want to win a Big Ten championship next year? Who are the teams you got to go through? And Oregon, Decorian Moore, Ohio State with the laundry list of cats they have. Like you got to have guys who can cover some of the best wide receivers in the country if you want to win in the Big Ten. I can't wait, man. These conversations are the absolute best for me. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.